not a tale of woe, it's a tale of G.I. Joe. This is Tales of G.I. Joe #1. And you know a comic book is successful when they have to reprint it. And this is nothing more than a reprinting of G.I. Joe issue #1. This one came out in January of 1988. Tales of G.I. Joe. You can see it's also got a much higher price tag. Issue #1, which I previously reviewed, was $1.50. Now you have to pay $2.25, and it's not even the first printing. Now the good thing about this is it's exactly the same as the first one, as issue #1 of G.I. Joe, except the advertisements are different. They do give you the exact same artwork and still a very high quality of paper and a high quality of ink, higher than you would find in a standard comic book. The story is exactly the same as issue #1, and we've already been through that. And the whole storyline here is G.I. Joe invades an island where Cobra is holding a lady hostage that has a doomsday device programmed in her head, or she has the plans for it in her head. Got some cheesy one-liners. Get back, Cobra. Rock and roll is here to stay. My favorite guy. And see, we got, they introduce all the Joes like Clutch. Like the early Joes, they had names that went along with what their function was. For instance, Short Fuse is the guy that worked the mortar. Little advertisement for Exxon there. And they never used this guy in the cartoons, or at least not much. That's Grunt. And he's the guy here on the cover. I guess he was just a grunt. They never really used him. They always focused, of course, on Snake Eyes, my man. Tales of G.I. Joe #1 is a great way to pick up the first issue of G.I. Joe without spending all that much money. Because the first issue of G.I. Joe is actually a collector's item, whereas G.I. Joe, Tales of G.I. Joe is probably not. So, even though this has been reprinted a few different times in different ways, and I think there's even a brand new reprinting of G.I. Joe now that they've re-released the action figures, you can pick up Tales of G.I. Joe and impress your friends with your encyclopedic knowledge of all the different code names of the G.I. Joe figures, like Stalker. You can look at them side by side. This is Tales of G.I. Joe next to G.I. Joe #1. A couple differences here. That guy's different. Blockbuster first issue, and we got an old school Spider-Man. The ultimate weapon of democracy, introducing America's sensational new special forces for the 80s. That's the original first edition of G.I. Joe, whereas here we have the newer Marvel logo from the late 80s, representing the saga. And they've removed that thing. The ultimate weapon of democracy. Yet, I don't remember actually voting on G.I. Joe invading the island. And that's Tales of G.I. Joe on CGR Comics.